Hello, 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 hello. Hello. Ari. Hello, 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 hello. 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 Hello.
लगा के सुनना मेरे जो फोन
Hello. Hello. Hello.
ओके
Hello, hello, hello.
ओके बस ठीक है फिर
Purpose for driving outcome-based entrepreneurial skills among bright young minds has led me to become a metapreneur this year. Entrepreneurial mindsets and abilities from very early stage. 5 years ago, we started Metamorphosis Edu with a robust passion to introduce entrepreneurial ecosystems in schools, driven passionately by our founder and CEO, Mr. Pavan Alena, and his association with school students. Pavan realized the potential in the ideas of such young minds. Being an entrepreneur himself, he realized well that kids and their ideas will shine if they have the right knowledge and skills to bring their ideas to life. Thus, with this almost infectious determination and that he has passed on to each one of us, he started Metamorphosis to ignite the entrepreneurial spirit in every young mind there be. The year 2017 witnessed the humble beginnings of his dream, marked with a 5-session workshop attended by 20 members. A year later, in 2018, we launched the first incubator in Hyderabad and grew to 20 incubators in Mumbai and Hyderabad the next year. The same year, we raised an angel round of funding from the Hyderabad Angels. In the year 2020, we empowered 20,000 students with entrepreneurial skills, taking it forward in 21 with financial literacy program and our close-knit community called Flutter, where kid entrepreneurs connect with each other, brainstorm, and support each other in their entrepreneurial journey. This year, as we speak, we have empowered 100,000 kid entrepreneurs. We feel blessed to be able to unleash the innovative spirit of such young minds. In a bid to help students realize how capable their unique ideas are, we launched the Global Schoolpreneur Summit in 2019. The Global Schoolpreneur Summit is beyond just an idea pitching platform. It is a hunt for the best ideas around the globe, taking those ideas to the next level via mentorship, acceleration program, networking, and funding. This year, we have received over 8,000 ideas from different schools across the country. In the diverse plethora of ideas, one thing that is common across board is the problem-solving nature that emerges amongst these students. We are thrilled to see that the nation builders are immensely empathetic and possess such zeal to ideate and find solutions to this problem. At this juncture, I would like to take a moment to invite students from your prestigious schools to participate in this global hunt for ideas. Through the Global Schoolpreneur Summit, we help young students bring forth their ideas and help them overcome their inhibitions and stride with pride and confidence to present their ideas to industry experts and potential investors. Entrepreneurship is a lot about having that confidence in your idea and the passion and perseverance to make it real. And that is exactly what we are here to do. Helping students understand that being entrepreneurial is all about identifying needs and solving for them. It's about taking ownership, about being risk-friendly and goal-oriented. It is about being able to look at every mistake as a failure and bouncing back after that fall. This is why we are so keen and determined to introduce young students to entrepreneurship early on. And that's how we believe we will transition from a nation of job seekers to job creators. Today, standing at one of the most prestigious institutions in India, the Indian School of Business, Mohali, I feel both proud and blessed to flag off the first roadshow of the Global Schoolpreneur Summit 2022. We are excited to take this ahead to 24 more locations across the country, and with Mohali, we officially open the floor. Taking forward the proceedings for the evening, I'd like to invite here Dr. Soumya Sidhwani, our keynote speaker, to please address the gathering today. Ma'am. Dr. Sidhwani is the Assistant Professor, Organization Behavior, Associate Dean, RCI Lead Advanced Management Program, Executive Director, Center for Learning and Management Practice here at the Indian School of Business. Welcome, ma'am. It's an honor.
Okay, so am I audible? So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to speak to you more than anything else, and more importantly, congratulate the Metamorphosis team for their phenomenal work. And when I was asked to do the keynote, I couldn't help but say no. I couldn't help but say yes, and that was because for a multitude of reasons. And one of the reasons essentially is, and I'll share a few reasons, but one of them is nearly 25 years ago when I was just about coming out of graduate school. I, along with a couple of friends, we got together and we set up an online venture. But my parents and their parents would often nag us and say, do you mind getting a real job? Or if nothing else, go do higher studies. Fast forward to pre-COVID times, my son, who was then 7 or maybe 8, under the guidance of my father, picks up some stones from across this very campus, paints them, and then sells them across this campus to people he met across, with a unique story for every stone. He made his first 482 rupees. I still can't fathom where that 482 comes from, because if at all, it should be a number which is a multiple of tens, if nothing else. But he comes back, so either somebody was given a heavy discount or somebody was overcharged. I don't know what happened. But that 428 rupees for us and for him, I think will be even more valuable than his first salary that he will ever draw, which I hope he will at some point in life. The experience, in my view, gave him the feeling of independence, the feeling of self-worth, ability to accomplish and achieve whatever he wanted. Besides, the money gave him the power to blackmail his mother and turn around and say, if you don't buy me this, I'll buy it with my own money. And believe you me, I don't know how many times that money has been recycled or that threat has been recycled. Hopefully, such endeavors and more will allow us and our children to solve real problems and understand the finer nuances of challenges of business. Life in some ways has come a full circle for many of us. And I say this in behalf of students who've just had their placements at ISB. Same entrepreneurship which was seen not mainstream many years ago, or sometimes, or in fact, we were very often told that this is not a profession for a middle-class, educated child. You have to find something more mainstream. So to now becoming absolutely central to children and their achievements. In fact, now when we look for applications in ISB, we see how that child has done right after school to post after working and his work experience, how much of it was entrepreneurial, how much of it was just about having worked for someone. And no prizes for guessing, an entrepreneurial spirit does outweigh anything else that we weigh for. Solving novel problems, solving old problems in new ways, solving new problems that we've not even thought about is the very premise of entrepreneurship. As an academic, I cannot emphasize the need for an entrepreneurial mindset enough. It is not a luxury anymore. It is a necessity that stems from the world that we live in. And why do I say that? Considering I teach strategy, I can very safely say that the world that we live in is absolutely complex. Some of it is our own creation. We've added to that complexity. But our old ways of solving problems will not work. And we need our kids to kind of come up with ways to solve them for us. And we need to empower them to build that. I mean, I'm sitting in front of some of the most illustrious principals of the Tri-Cities. So with all humility, I'm going to say this. Unfortunately, mainstream education doesn't provide for enough of that. The mainstream education needs to supplement, in some ways, the whole process of thinking out of the box. And that, in some sense, entrepreneurship does do that. As a professor who teaches business for a living and who's been a consultant long enough, I can safely say that it is never too early to learn entrepreneurship. Being an entrepreneur, one learns how to spot opportunities, solve real problems, and most effective and novel ways. And going forward, it is going to be an essential skill if it isn't already. Entrepreneurship, I believe, is a lot like flexing a muscle. The more you exercise it, the more you ingrain it. And it takes time to build. Hence, it is paramount that this skill is imparted early on. Secondly, it not only helps build cognitive skills, but it also helps build emotional skills, which include something as basic as confidence boost. In order to raise a generation which is confident, self-reliant, and successful, entrepreneurship is an essential skill going forward. And I believe with every cell in my body, both as a mother and as an academic. Hence, I only hope we find ways to make entrepreneurial education more and more mainstream. We need it to play a central role in our education system. And with that note, I wish the Metamorphosis team the very best, that you're able to achieve the vision that you've set out to, and may you impact not only just 100,000, but a lot more children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the thought-provoking and insightful address to our esteemed gathering. Thank you so much. Ma'am, please accept our gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sidhwani. Thank you, Sonali. Taking the evening forward, our first panel discussion for today evening. No kidding, taking kidpreneurs seriously. May I please invite upon the stage the panelists, Dr. Anirudh Gupta, the Chief Executive Officer of DCM Group of Institutions. So, Mr. Mukesh Sharma, Chairperson and Director, Promistia School. Mr. Rikrit Sarai, Managing Director, Satluj Group of Schools, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, and Jammu and Kashmir. Mr. Karan Bajwa, Managing Director of Shamrock Group of Schools, Punjab. And our very own Amara Habib, Office of the CEO, Head of Marketing. I leave the floor open to you.
Hi. Am I audible? Okay. So to start off with, I think I'm very nervous to share the stage with such esteemed speakers and panelists and entrepreneurs. We've been talking about entrepreneurship for quite some time now. We've been working towards educating different students across different cities. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of you for joining us in this initiative and encouraging us to do this further. I'd like to start the panel discussion with a question directed to Mukesh sir. So the first question is, why is it important to develop and nurture an entrepreneurial mindset among young students? Given that you have a huge entrepreneurship background, why do you think students should learn it at such a young age?
Thanks, Amara. I think the answer that I was going to give is already given by ma'am. Why is already being answered. But I think, the transformation that we've seen in the entrepreneur, in the way entrepreneurs are coming up. See, during my time, I was able to start, I'm a first generation entrepreneur, by the way. I started my company when I was in late 20s. Back then, information was not on your fingertips. When I graduated, I could have started a company without requiring any seed fund, right, with the ideas. And ma'am also pointed out that, parents were also not supportive because they wanted you to have a secure job. I think we need to change that. The reason that I started a school in Noida called Prometheus School after taking an exit from the IT company that I used to run is because I want to be able to create entrepreneurs in India. I want to be able to create job givers rather than job seekers. But we have to understand that not everybody can be a job giver, right? Each child is unique. But the ones who have the potential, the ones who can be molded in a particular way, right? If you provide them with an environment wherein individuals are recognized for coming up with ideas to solve problems that exist around them. With the technology that exists today, it is not difficult. I mean, I'm very excited to share with you that in just 3 years of our existence as a school, one of our students has already created a product that is out in the market. Now it's a game, but it is still an accomplishment. Now, once it is out in the shops, he'll be making money. Now, why is it important? Because we want to be able to create job givers than job seekers. We want to be known as a country that has the maximum number of innovators. I mean, if you look around in the world, most of the companies, top 100 companies are run by Indians. Why can't we innovate in India? We have to set up that ecosystem in school so children are able to question right from early age rather than just learning something that they don't understand how to apply and where to apply. So, I think that those are the reasons.
So thank you so much. And I think some of the things that you've said feed in right very beautifully to the next question that I wanted to ask Mr. Anirudh Gupta. So sir has recently launched a school called YES School, right? And you were talking about starting it at a school level, getting that disruption in place. And with that same thought process, sir has started a school. So sir, could you expand on what prompted you to, start an entirely separate school for entrepreneurship? And how can we as community stakeholders help children in getting that right entrepreneurship education?
Thank you, Amara. I think we all, entrepreneurship seems to be a buzzword now. Everybody has started talking about it, and rightly so. So for the last 7-8 years, we started, by the way, those who are not familiar with DCM, we had set up first school in 1946. And since our inception, we have been, exhibited whole lot of perseverance, risk-taking ability, because we've been very, very close to border. Our school is just 5 kilometers from Pakistan after independence. And there was a nationalist character also staying in that area. So the legacy was there, the desire was there, and the thought of making education more purposeful, more aligned to the needs of 21st century, more aligned to this government's initiative like Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. You know, the very fact that, you know, we have more number of doctorates than graduates in America, still our contribution to worldwide patent is less than 1%. So all these factors, you know, like talking about job providers not, you know, creating job seekers. So all these things, you know, have been weighing on our mind. And the very fact that, you know, despite of the being the biggest youth force in the world, we are still a developing nation, not in the lead of developed nations. So all these things, you know, like have been fueling this desire to set up something different. What happens, you know, in schools these days, irrespective of the board we are affiliated to, we are trying to do many things in terms of technology, in terms of creative arts, in terms of performing arts. So doing something in the area, in the field of entrepreneurship in the same school, I thought will somewhere dilute this importance and an entire thought of entrepreneurship we've been, you know, trying to work on. So we plan to create an entirely different school called Young Entrepreneur School, where not only the pedagogies, the entire infrastructure, the entire ecosystem, the, you know, everything revolves around, you know, with a specific focus on creating that entrepreneurial mindset. And 3 years back, we had organized the first Indian Premier Schools Business Conclave also. So all these factors, you know, like contributed to the raising of this Young Entrepreneur School. And I'm happy that, you know, the school is 7 months old. And I'm happy to see the results, you know, the kind of pitching sessions being organized, you know, even the like children belonging to grade 4, 5 and 6, you know, talking about the very, very technical terms, you know, like which were unheard of before. So one is to introduce entrepreneurship, like CBSE as a part of vocational stream has also introduced entrepreneurship. One, you know, with the entrepreneurship being the pivot, you know, where the entire education, the entire curriculum revolving around it. And we are planning the entire curriculum, you know, in the spirit of the new national education policy. Luckily, we have a document around the same time. So with this multidisciplinary approach, you know, so everything, you know, like even the nomenclature of most of the things in the school, like you have head boy, head girl, so we have a students entrepreneurs board. So everything is, you know, we are trying to kind of put it through with a different prism and of entrepreneurship now. And I'm happy that, you know, things are taking shape. Students are becoming independent learners. They are becoming more confident. You know, all the skills what we've been talking about might be problem solving skills, analytical skills, you know, critical thinking, thinking out of the box. So they are not merely on papers, or they are not just being taught. They are very much reflecting in the entire attitude of the children. So that what actually, you know, reinforces our belief that, you know, we need to do something in the area of entrepreneurship. And I'd like to invite all of you to come and visit the school and encourage the initiative.
Definitely, sir. Thank you so much. So question to request sir is, Dr. Gupta is taking a whole school approach. Is this working? Yeah. So Dr. Gupta is taking a whole school approach where the entire school is completely focused on entrepreneurship. But at a group school level, at a chain school level, if you had to implement entrepreneurship skills, how would you go about that? And if you're already doing it, what are some of your learnings that you would like to share with the group today?
Thank you. You know, like firstly, it's a pleasure to be amongst friends, of course, and educators. And then I'm very happy to see that, you know, that we, many of the educators present, I think that we've spoken at forums in the past as well, and plus we keep on, you know, getting a chance to meet each other when we of course represent our town in other parts of the country. So it is a wonderful platform that we have, of course. Entrepreneurship for me, it's just a single word, and I think that word is the passion. And that's one thing that we, of course, try and teach our kids, and that's what we try and educate our kids about. That it's about the passion that you have for life. It's about the passion that you got when you want to solve a problem that you think is big enough to be solved. And I think that's the entrepreneur mindset that we want our kids to have. Apart from passion, of course, there are various other things in entrepreneurship that, of course, kids can learn. The most important is that never give up in the face of failure. It's okay to fail. Presently, of course, I'm sure all of us have tried various things in lives, and then we, of course, thought that this is the best line to be in. But within this line, of course, then there are various experiments that we must have done, and then we must have failed at times, and we must have done well at times. But if you give up at each point, and each point where you fail, that's where you don't grow. So for students, it's very important to understand that life is an ongoing process, and that it's not just that it's not just a hurdle that you face day in and day out. There are lots of things that you learn in the course of life. Within our schools, for the last decade or so, there's an entrepreneurship cell which we have, which I think we launched in the year 2012. Wherein there are various platforms that we made for the kids, where the kids can run businesses, small, of course, and at a very micro level too. And then we teach them how to manufacture products, small things. So like if it's like in this case, if it can be something as small as a hanky, or something like like buying and selling pencils and pens in the school as well. I think that we have been doing this for the last decade or so. But what I think is that in this current day and age, it isn't easy to teach entrepreneurship to kids. Why? Because every child has inbuilt entrepreneurship within them. They've been born in the era of Instagram or Facebook and so on and so forth. So every child by default is an influencer now. And when you consider them influencers, they've got massive reach at the fingertips, which we did not have when we were in school. So when you're trying to teach entrepreneurship to these kids, right, you've got to be mindful of the world that they live in. And that particular world is a very different world. So I think teaching an entrepreneur how to be an entrepreneur is just going against the current. So what we do now is that we teach them how to use this massive power that they have on the internet responsibly, because every skill that they need, every resource that they need in terms of entrepreneurship, it is all online at this point of time. So I think it's very important for us to merge both of them, to merge this amazing power that the youth has at this point of time, and also the resources and the internet as well. So these are just some of the things that we do in our school. There are various clubs that we have formed for this as well. I think recently, like prior to 2 or 3 years ago, I think that we launched a blockchain club, where we taught the kids about blockchain and tech. So it's important to understand how the future will be, and it's important to shape their minds at this point of time as well. So these are just some of the things that we're doing in our school as well.
Thank you so much, sir. So just taking some bits from your response and then tweaking it slightly, I wanted to ask you, Karan sir. So there is a narrative that usually goes around that entrepreneurship skills can't be taught, right? Every entrepreneurship that, or most entrepreneurs that you interact with, they say that, we've started on our own journey, we learned by doing mistakes. But do you think that's true in this day and age? Like, shall it still be the way forward? Shall students still take initiative, fail, and then learn from their failures? Or would you suggest that we start teaching them that there's an easy way to it?
Thank you, Amara. So I think I was just, when we were talking about entrepreneurship, I was just thinking that we can't enforce entrepreneurship.
Right.
I think we can just ignite the spark.
Right.
And when the child will do it himself or herself, they will learn and grow. Like we all have grown ourselves. We haven't learned the driving car by sitting next to it. We have learned driving a car by handling the car, by driving it ourselves. So I think same entrepreneurship with, if it's properly structured for junior kids and primary and go higher with the level of entrepreneurship, because it will basically build up the basic fundas to grow in life, and it can't be taught, it can't be enforced into everyone. It needs to be ignited, and the one who ignites, takes the spark, will just move forward. And our duty as educators, what we are doing in all other subjects, entrepreneurship is one of the outcomes. There's students who go in services, they go for IT and different fields. So we are just basically igniting the spark in them, and then they just have their own interest, some influence around, which makes a difference in taking decision. And yes, if entrepreneurship basics are given to the students at early age, it does bring a lot of change, like any other industry, like the students are doing after doing schooling and graduation. So I think students should be explored to as many environments as much as possible, whether it's theatre, whether it's entrepreneurship. So wherever the child wants to take it forward from, he or she will take it. And the structured education system does help to empower them and just be like little forward than others.
Amara, I'd like to add some. Hello. Hello. Yeah. So the kind of challenges what we're facing right now is about the common perception. Like when we started this young entrepreneur school, now in India, parents, what I have realized, they've been shy of divergence. There's very little risk-taking ability they have, and they're always looking for a safe passage for the kids. So when we launched this young entrepreneur school, the one challenge what we faced was parents said, no, I don't want my child to get into business. Fine. They thought that entrepreneurship is all about doing business. Fine. So मुझे तो बच्चे को डॉक्टर ही बनाना है. Fine. So what we've been trying to convey and what we'll be trying to tell people is that entrepreneurship is not just doing a business, or it's not essentially getting into a startup or eventually into a company. Even if you're pursuing medical, you are being CA, you are a lawyer, you are an architect, having this entrepreneurial mindset will always give you a lot of scalability. Fine, if like out of a class of 60 in a medical college, if you see them, 30 years down the line, some of them will be running just a clinic, some of them will be working for some particular doctor. All right, but maybe few of them have set up their own hospitals or a chain of hospitals. So what is the difference? They studied from the same professor in the same college. So entrepreneurship is not just a subject or a passage to get into business. It's all about mindset. It's an added skill which cutting across all the streams. If one can possess like the other skills we are talking about, it's always an added advantage. So this was one challenge what we faced. Secondly, in the morning, I was, with the education minister and the people were asking, especially, I'm talking since we are sitting in Punjab, where everybody, is trying to migrate abroad. Fine. Pehle, people used to think of, fine, now, the moment a child gets into a class 9th, they say, okay, 4 saal reh gaye. I mean, it's become a norm that, everybody is wanting to go abroad. So how we can prevent this exodus? Fine. How we can, help the a child, envisage a bright future in Punjab itself. So people were asking that what can be done? What should be done? Otherwise, if, at the current pace, the children, earlier they used to go for PG, then they started going for undergrad, now they started, at the school level only. We have some villages and some townships where you will not find any student. I mean, irrespective of they are from a lower economy strata or a middle or a higher, they are selling land, shop, whatever they can, afford. And the only thing is that they want to go to Canada or Australia or England. So how do we, as an educator, what kind of ways and means do we have to stop it? So this is what I said that, I think one answer to this problem, which is actually, assuming alarming proportions in Punjab, is entrepreneurship, to show them the way that, you can, be financially independent, you can have your own company, you can have your own enterprise here itself. So I think what we are talking is, kind of addressing a very peculiar socio-economic problem in the state also. So if we make children, attached to, some kind of, area of entrepreneurship where they are, like participating part of some team activity, where they have the sense of ownership, of some startup or, I think that is one aspect or one way to address this problem, which actually is more alarming than one can think of at this point of time.
I agree, Dr. Gupta, but I would also like to say that the problem won't end. There is a need to do work in multiple areas. We are talking about school. At school level, what can we do? The reason that people are migrating from India to other countries is not just school, it is the overall environment. What can we do to prevent our children from going abroad and studying higher studies? Why can't we have more universities like Plaksha University that is in Mohali, where it's not just engineering degree, it is reimagining tech education, wherein whatever that is taught in the college would actually end up making students come up with ideas and convert those ideas into products. So there is a need for us to have such universities in India, and folks like us will have to come together and create many more universities like Ashoka, Plaksha, Geo University. So people from abroad, children from US and other countries should start to come here to study. How do we create that environment? If we start to create entrepreneurs, what we think of Silicon Valley today, because that's where most of the that will happen in India. But it's not just at school level, college level also we need to do significant work. I want to add here about a few things that I missed while talking about Prometheus School. At Prometheus School, we are an IB school, IB Continuum School. So every child is made to question, inquirer. We need to have inquirers. We also have set up a club called Entrepreneurial, which is a club by students for students, wherein again ideas are promoted. And we've also set up a incubation center at Prometheus School, wherein there is a significant amount that is set aside to support students who come up with brilliant ideas and are approved by the committee. So I think there is a need to have that kind of a platform wherein ideas are not just ideas, they are actually guided to convert them into products. Now, I also want to add here, the role of organization like Metamorphosis. The curriculum that Pawan and your team has put together, I think there is a need to formally introduce it into the education, into the curriculum. Because if it is there, if children are encouraged to be risk takers, it's a life skill. You will fail faster. We want you to fail. And once you failed, you have to come back, come out of it. Let them drive the events that happen at school. Colleges, there are cultural fest and number of fests that students drive. Why can't we have Christmas Carnival, for example, that we are having in Prometheus School on December 18th, is conceptualized and driven by students for students. In fact, the student council that we have is working equivalent to what the student union does at college level. Head of sponsorship, being able to get the sponsorship to run the event. Financial literacy, you can teach, but when they experience, they learn faster. And that's to your point. You don't learn by sitting on the side of the driver. You have to drive it. So empower them, let them make mistakes, but be there, let them be. Be there to support them. Okay, thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. So then I have one question for the group, that is, what are some of the mindset shifts that we need to do as on both sides of the table, right? So as educators, what are some mindset shifts that we need to make to encourage these skills in students, and for us to facilitate this change in students, how do we start approaching students? And what are some shifts that students should make to realize that say engineering and medicine is not the be all and end all of life? So what are any of you, if you'd like to take that question?
I think, Amara, first of all, I like to say here, we have to be very careful while handling these subjects like entrepreneurship, because if you see the success rate of startups, almost only 10% startups, they sustain beyond the first year. So risk-taking ability, the fear of failure, so this is always there when we deal with these kind of chapters. So we also have on their emotional skills, their mental endurance, their sensitizing them to deal with the failures. So otherwise it can be counterproductive also, number one. Number two, as they say, today the literate is not who has degrees or certificates or qualification. A literate is one who can learn, unlearn and relearn. All right. So if we really want to create that, entire ecosystem, everything starts with the mindset change. Without that, any kind of the best curriculum or the best kind of technology or equipment won't help. So you have to first, take all the educators into confidence, make them, unlearn and relearn, because they are handling a very, very sensitive topic at a very sensitive age, they are dealing with still, children in the bracket of, 8 to 18 years. So it has to be very, very carefully embedded in the system. Fine. So we need to work equally on the educators also, and we need to sensitize the parents also. Like, you were talking about being a doctor or an engineer, fine. So we have to give them, if we're wanting to make them independent learners, we have to give them the independence, fine. So this is not about a curriculum or not about that, we have to make it a mandatory for every child to become an entrepreneur. So this has to be, otherwise, as I'm saying, it's a double-edged weapon. So the mindset of the teachers, and it has to be a top-down approach. The parents, the students, so all stakeholders have to come together, and so they have to, have lot of open house, lot of coffee evenings, lot of discussions. This cannot ideally be achieved within that 6 or 7 hours of schooling. Fine, and thanks to the pandemic, what I feel, it has been like a blessings in disguise that we have now the hybrid model. Fine, so lot of classes, lot of sessions, like this, panel discussions can be held online also. Fine, so I think the most important aspect, if I talk about whatever skills, problem solving skills, working on a 4C concept, what we have from classroom to corridor to campus to community, identification of the problems, understanding the sustainable development goals. Fine. What are the local problems? It might be a traffic problem, working on the intellectual property rights, like if you have created something, how to, like convert it into a product and, eventually go from patenting. So it's a very holistic chapter in itself. So we have to tread very cautiously. And I think the entire mindset change is required to induct it seamlessly into the system and eventually work on this, academia and industry, like we need to foster this aspect so that nobody gets flabbergasted of the fact that, like what is this entrepreneurship all about? So I think it's extremely vital to the success of this entire thing.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so so like what I feel over here is something different. So a student who is about to enter the education system in the year 2022 will of course graduate if you see around 15 to 18 years down the line. So let's fast forward to the year 2040. It's going to be an entirely different world, right? AI, of course, like future tech is going to play a major role. You'll have self-driving cars. You'll have robots who bring your slippers from your bathrooms to your bedroom. Things are going to be entirely different, and we need an entirely different way of thinking if we want to educate the kids now. I think it's better to reverse engineer what is going on in terms of education, rather than looking at the problem now, right? And plus, it might seem massive as of date, but if you fast forward the next few decades, the problem is going to become even bigger. So the solution is very simple. The solution is in the classrooms. The solution is entirely in the classrooms. The solution is entirely with educators. It's very important to train our educators about the future, about how we feel the world is going to be. It's important to deploy resources in terms of training, I feel. And it's important to expose educators to this massive brand new world that we're just about to see. Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Amazon, and plus we all know that, right? So he was asked a question that, how have you grown so big over just 2 decades? I mean, like if you see, then the business itself is just like 2 decades old or so. It's one of the biggest in the world now. He said that I am somewhere in the 3rd quarter of 2040. So I'm not even thinking about the present. I'm always focused on the future. So it's very important to understand that if we want to change the present, we've got to keep the future in mind and work backwards from there. So if you want a solution, then there isn't just one magic pill over here. I think that there are lots of them. But one of the easiest solutions and one of the most cost-effective solutions is to focus on the classroom, is to focus on what is being taught in the classroom. Of course, the NEP is a drastic step in terms of education. It was required. It's been decades. And this is a welcome change. But will it be implemented the way it should? And what else can be done? I think a lot of the points about NEP in this case, then I recently spoke at the Eco Times Education Conference as well. Anirudh was also there, and then we shared a panel over there as well. Most of the points that are recommended in the NEP are being implemented by schools even now. So of course it's a drastic change because it just shows the mindset of the government, and they are willing to change the education ecosystem within the country. But most of the points have been in place in schools for years. So I think there's a requirement that the government, of course, works with private schools or works with educators across the world to come up with something that the country really needs. And what we need is a boost of entrepreneurship. If we want to become a developed country, which I feel that we aren't very far from. But it's a boost of entrepreneurship. It's a wave of entrepreneurship. The kids need to understand that entrepreneurship isn't a Shark Tank where you've got, these entrepreneurs who come on the screen and then they share their views about various things other than entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship is actually trying to solve a problem that will impact the lives of many. So within the classroom, that is where the change will come.
Thank you so much, sir. So just one question to Mukesh, sir, is you've always spoken that there needs to be fire in the belly if one wants to be entrepreneurial. So how can we ignite that? How can we ignite that spirit in students if we want to bring about this change of disruption, if we want to create job creators and not job seekers? So what are some fundamental things that we'll have to do? Or do we do it by modeling that behavior to students? Best way forward,
Well,
sir.
that's a very good question. Fire in the belly. How do you ignite fire in the belly? Well, in the school, you introduce them to variety of things. Let them be. Follow them. And you will see certain pointers which would tell you that this is something that this child is good at, right? And then you support. You'll have to partner with the parent because the child is showing that there are clear evidences of child interested in something, passionate about something. Fire in the belly is your passion. And I'll give you an example. I don't want to take too much time, but this is real example. And I also want to talk about the opportunity that I had with Jeff Bezos back in 2002. I had a face-to-face interaction with him, and we were a group of 10 to 15 folks at University of Colorado, wherein I asked him, you've had Amazon, which was just coming up, but what about pets.com, which is a failure? How do you deal with it? He said, I loved it. We closed it. We closed it very fast. We realized that we are not going to make money in it. So, and then I asked, what tip would you give to somebody who wants to start a business? He said, you have to do something that is not done by others. You have to be ahead of the waves. And that ahead of the waves still echoes in my head. And, I was able to think of something which wasn't existing and started a company. Now, I wanted to talk about this guy called Arjun Bhati. I accidentally bumped into this property dealer and a very, very nice guy, kind-hearted. His name is Bobby Bhati. And, while you are on your phone, you can search for Arjun Bhati. He was around 8 or 9 years old. I ended up, and his father used to live at the golf course because, 9 years back, now he's probably 18. So 9 years back, property market was good, but then 8 years back, it started going down. So, the downfall also started within a year of my meeting with him. So his father told me, I did a transaction with him. His father said, when you come for golf game, just come over to my house for a cup of coffee and take the papers. He talked about his son at that time. He said, my son gets up at 5:30 a.m. for a game at 8 a.m. in the morning. And he keeps looking, down the window because their apartment was facing golf course, right at the golf course. I said, great. Then he said that, one night I heard noise from his bedroom. We thought that, somebody has barged into the house. When I went at the middle of the night, I saw Arjun cleaning his clubs. 9-year-old cleaning his golf clubs is something that I couldn't even imagine. I said, there is something special in this child. I had a rough conversation with his dad. He wasn't my friend. Now he is. I said, how much time does he spend on the golf course? His father said his mom picks up at 3:30 from school, takes him to the golf course, spends 1 hour. I said, what do you want him to be? I want him to get a degree. I want him to study. I said, but what do you want him to be when he grows up? He said, I just want him to be educated. I am Angutha Chap. I said, but you are living luxurious life. You've got a Mercedes Benz, you've got a chauffeur driven car. What more do you want? But I don't know English, I don't know this. I said, no, that's not it. You need to let your child spend more time on the golf course, and that would change everything for you. He will be able to do what you've done. He'll do much better than you because he's got that spark, he's got that fire for golf. He said, please don't say it loudly because if he hears you, he will become your fan. And he had heard me, so he came and touched my feet. And I was like, wow, you should do this. His father kept on arguing with me. But then 6 months down the line, when the market had started to go down, he had to come to me to ask for funds. Can I help him? I said, I will help him. I'll help you only if you support your son with golf. Which, he agreed to. And I can tell you, 3 years in a row, he became world champion. And President of India also met with both father, mother and Arjun Bhati. Today he's in the Indian circuit playing at professional level. You have to, how do you ignite, how do you identify? You can't ignite. You have to introduce them to variety of things. And then you have to observe and support. That support is important, which is what was lagging. But I can tell you, we are blessed to have parents at Prometheus School who want their children, who want their child to be a happy citizen. How do you make them happy? When they follow their passion. What is their passion? They don't know. You introduce them to variety of things. And that's when you find out and you realize that this is what the child is passionate about and support. Right?
I think, Mara, I'd like to add to that 2 things, One, how to ignite that fire in the belly. There is no fixed mantra for that. You start talking about like how we teach in IIMs and institutes like ISB. Talk about lot of case studies. Don't talk about success. Talk about failures also. Let them interact with lot of young startups. And create that environment. Which propels them to do something out of the box. Fine. Secondly, what Mukesh was talking about, I shared the other day also, while we are talking of entrepreneurship, success, we are talking about a whole lot of things, like teacher asking students in a class, what do you want to become? Like he asked that child. So in that class also, everybody was talking about, I want to become this, I want to become doctor, I want to become a surgeon or an engineer. So there was a young child. So when the teacher asked him that, okay, what do you want to become? The child said, I want to become happy. So teacher again asked, no, I'm asking what do you want to become? The child again reiterated that, ma'am, I want to become happy. So she said, probably you don't understand the purpose of education. And the child said, ma'am, probably you don't understand the purpose of life. Fine. So while we are talking about all these things, here, we also need to understand that, the kids need to be, like a happy lot. So if they're happy, they'll be willingly, more than eager to do all these things and, being a fire in the belly or igniting their minds, all these things should happen. So I think in the schools, it's very important to focus on the happiness quotient. Fine. So I think miracles will take place.
Thank you so much, sir. Just to wrap up this panel, I would like to ask you all one more last question and would like to hear the answer from everyone. If we were to propel this forward, the entire gamut of entrepreneurship skills, what should be the strongest reason to do this? So if you all can share from your end, like what should be the one reason why we take entrepreneurship skills forward in schools? Yes, sir.
So like all other industries, all other variety of fields which are available for the students, similarly entrepreneurship should be introduced from younger age. Like Anirudh sir said, you have to be very careful. It's a very sensitive topic because one failure, it will be very difficult for him or her to come up again. So like sir said, things should be explored in, like Mukesh sir said, like students should be explored with such kind of situations in school, so that that failure is very still manageable by the teachers or by other students who are accompanying him or her. So, because if there's a failure, if you start up out of, like sir said, 10%, I think even less than that, startups actually stay for even longer. So, I think it should be introduced, and like any other industry.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, well, so so I think entrepreneurship is important for students only because of the fact that it helps in self-fulfillment, and of course I think it's good for the country, is good for the world. Innovation is always good. So it's always important to change with times, and what we particularly see in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of startups, is that we're trying to do something good, something new. I think that we're trying to change a process which is already in place and making it better, right? One story just came to my mind, which I've shared at various forums in the past, and I hope is apt even now as well, though times have changed. So a few years ago, a fresher that we hired in one of our schools came up to me and she said that, sir, like there's a parent who can't come to the school for the PTM. So this is in the Panchkula head office branch. So she said that, sir, one of the parents can't come for the PTM. Can I please send the report card to him on mail? I said, and this is let's say like around 5-6 years ago. We had just introduced an ERP as well, but we did not have that option of sharing the report cards on mail with the parents and the kids. So she said, "Can I send it to him on mail?" I said, "Absolutely not. It's an offline world." And the parent should come to school and take the report card, because a few years ago that's what schools would do. That we were not very keen about sharing stuff with the parents on WhatsApp and on mail, and then we used to make parents hustle for no reason, which I think is absolutely changed now. So I said, no, you can't send it on mail. The parent should come in a few days and take the report card. I don't know what went on in her mind, and then she came back to me after a few minutes and she said, "Sir, can I send it to him on WhatsApp?" I said, "Of course, no. I mean, like, if you can't send it on mail, and then you can't send it on WhatsApp as well." Okay, and then she gave a confused and a perplexed look to me, and then she went away. Towards the end of the day, then she came back to me and she said, "So if I can't send on WhatsApp, is it okay if I send it on Snapchat?" So I think that we've got to be mindful of the era that we live in. Entrepreneurship is, of course, key now. We're living with these kids who know much more than us. My daughter, who's about to turn 5, and as per her, she's a very big girl now. But we're living with these kids who, of course, have been born with smartphones and gadgets in their hands as soon as they're born. So we've got to be mindful of our own background when we educate these kids. So entrepreneurship is key. It's very important, and I think there's, as I said as well, there's an inbuilt entrepreneur in every child now. So we've just got to bring out that entrepreneur. We've got to teach kids the rights and the wrongs, and I'm pretty sure that the future is very bright for India, given the very bright kids that of course we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
I think, Rikrit, on a lighter note, he was talking about the key. So they say the key to happiness in Punjab is menu key, Fine. So everybody wants somebody else to do it, all right? So we'll all have to do it. If we want to be a, thriving economy, if we want to be a manufacturing hub, if we want our education to be very purposeful and relevant, like, almost 15 years back in an interview, I had given a statement that for schools, it's digitize or perish. I mean, the technology is the future. There are no two options, whether to embrace technology or not. I think same at this point of time, entrepreneurship not an option. I think we have to do it. Fine, as a country, as a nation, as a society, and education, as I said, is the growth engine of the economy. Fine, it's a purpose of life. So we have to dive deep into this field of entrepreneurship. And yes, by the way, it's not an accident, So a lot of thought and mind has gone into it. And I think if we look forward, entrepreneurship, one of the, solutions to what, problems we are facing in our society today.
Thank you, sir. So before you answer that question, can we send the report card on It's Credible to Mukesh, sir?
Wow, that's a very good question. So, Amara, thank you very much for bringing It's Credible in the panel discussion. Itscredible.com is a platform, is a startup which I'm also one of the founders of the startup, technology startup, that allows schools, organizations to recognize individuals' accomplishments. The way we were given certificates in the past, those certificates have a life just, in either it stays in the files or in emails. You keep a copy of it. With the digital natives that we live with, it's not difficult for them to temper it. Take somebody else's certificate, make it your own, and share it wherever that you want to share. How do you ensure that the certificate that somebody is carrying, the accomplishment that somebody says is of theirs, is actually theirs? So It's Credible is a platform that allows the instant verification. It allows you to instantly issue badges to the whole class, to the ones who need to be recognized. And that wallet, which is called CrediLocker, would always remain. You would be able to download it from there. The ability to share. So today, as an organization, if I issue a certificate of achievement or accomplishment to a student, parents want to go and talk about it. Even the child wants to go and talk about it with his or her friends. How does that happen? Earlier it used to be community, you go and meet with people. But now in the digital age that we are living in, it is through social media. So It's Credible allows you to instantly share it with your on your social media handles as well.
Thank you so much, sir.
And it's built on blockchain, so it cannot be tampered. Yeah, it's on blockchain. It's on blockchain.
So the moment you started saying blockchain, and I was like, okay, it's connected and definitely.
Yeah. It's on blockchain, so it cannot be altered.
Right.
The reason I want to support entrepreneurs is because I could have been an entrepreneur back in school. Had the environment, had the ecosystem been such. I didn't get that. I wasn't happy with the school, the way education was provided. I thought that if I can become an entrepreneur, anybody can become an entrepreneur. Everybody, the other panelists, esteemed panelists have mentioned, everybody has got something or the other unique capabilities. It's just that if you notice it in them, you need to be able to work with them and their parents as educators and provide them with that ecosystem wherein they are able to convert that idea into product. And why do I want to support it? I want our country to be known as a country of innovators.
Thank you, sir.
I want our country to flourish. I want our country to, have no unemployment. Why should we rely on government to provide jobs? Why can't we create jobs? So let's do our bit and support those who have ideas, provide them the environment so they are able to come up with ideas to solve and encourage them.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, everyone.
I would like to thank the esteemed panelists for today. And now I would invite Ms. Pooja Kapoor to facilitate the panelist. Thank you. It was a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
You want to invite?
Do you want to invite?
No, I'll go there.
Okay, 1 second. No, I'm just taking it. No, go. I have it here. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I would now like to call on stage Dr. Niyati Chitkara, Director of Chitkara International School, Ms. Taruna Vashin, Principal Manav Rachna International School, Mr. Robin Agarwal, Director Learning Path School, Professor Vineet Raj Kapoor, Director of Scale, Ms. Praneet Sohal, Principal Shamrock School Head Office, and Ms. Pooja Kapoor, Head of Operations and Office of CEO at Metamorphosis, to start our next panel. Thank you so much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our second panel of discussion is empowering teachers and the school management to be entrepreneurial. I'd like this to be very informal. I'd like everyone here to share their point of view. We've heard a lot about how entrepreneurship or building the entrepreneurial mindset and skill set has become so critical to the future. Typically, when a child enters school, what they expect to learn is phonics, algebra, and botany, right? But suddenly, there is a lot of talk of situational awareness, higher purpose, larger appetite for risk, bounce back from failure. I want to understand from you, because you interact with parents or students also, as educators and parents, how far have we come through with this transition? How equipped are we? Because at the end of the day, we are the go-to for the coping mechanisms when they have to bounce back or when they have to really take that risk. So I want to understand from you, how prepared are we, how equipped are we, and how much of that transition or the bridge have we crossed in actually inculcating that larger appetite for risk and the other aspects we just spoke about?
Very good evening, and thank you for this platform. As you said, that now the buzzword is entrepreneurship. I think this is the right time, and the changes have begun. In the sense that the children today are really pivoted and positioned to think more, rather than to accept as given to them. So that questioning generation, the Y generation, is already there. And the process of innovation in their minds has already begun because of the digital exposure. So you find little children having their own channels, their YouTube. So it's happened. And we discovered by chance when we spoke to children that they have this already. So it is not, and parents are very proud of it. Yes, what later happens and how far it goes is still to watch. But when I talk and I think about entrepreneurship, I'm not thinking of business. Business is going to happen when in time. Right now is the time to give them innovative ideas, allow them to explore, give them opportunities where they come up with these concepts and they're willing to try. Though there is a resilience in children, though this area still has to be worked upon. Because children do, this generation is a Y generation, but they're also a generation of quick gratification. If the success doesn't come soon enough, they either start losing confidence in themselves or in their idea. So either one of the two things they'll try to drop. So this is an area we still have to work on, and here I think the educators need to have a broader vision, that you allow children to explore, introduce them to entrepreneurs and see their life stories. They haven't just come up like that. So these things will allow us, and we are in a good space now. We are there. Of course, our teachers would need a lot of training, but it's happening. Because fortunately, it's happening gradually, and the COVID era pushed it further. So that little push that came has been a blessing in disguise. I think it is a good time, and ultimately, I feel all this is going to come from the classroom. We don't have to go very far. If you start with a small child in the classroom atmosphere, because the magic really happens there. From there, if we start and we build further, there is a lot of optimism in this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I'd like to share, what we do at our schools, and maybe we get an answer out of it. And I'm sure a lot of other schools are already, into the same situation. So what I've tried to do is, at Chitkara, we've divided the entire entrepreneurial journey into 5 stages. We all go to airports, right? We board the flight. Once we board the flight, then there's a stage called taxi, the takeoff stage. Then there's the flight, the actual journey. Then the taxiing stage, and then the landing stage. These are the 5 stages. And in between, there's also something called turbulent flight. Turbulence can happen at any stage. Now, what is entrepreneurship is also actually relatable to these 5 stages. Number 1, boarding is business idea. Takeoff is building teams, planning part. Flight is the actual journey. Taxing, again, is analyzing the business, right? Whether we will be landing properly or not landing properly. And the final landing is your final destination. Now, in order to create a fantastic curriculum for entrepreneurship at school level, teachers and managements have to understand these 5 stages and the nuances and the expectations of these 5 stages. Also, I have a situation here. There are 2 kinds of students. One who have the skill but don't board the flight. Now, this is a very sorry situation. You have everything relating to entrepreneurship in yourself, but you're not ready to board the flight, and you don't even know about it. Second stage is, you know that you don't have entrepreneurship in you, yet you board the flight. It will end up into a disaster. And that's one reason a lot of startups fail, because they don't analyze themselves. Next, I'd like to talk about the teacher's journey. So at Chitkara, landing of a teacher into a Chitkara classroom also follows these 5 stages. So no teacher can enter unprepared with certain skills which we are trying to impart to the students but are missing in the teacher. Next part is, for a flight to work, you need fuel, right? So these are like fuel points or fuel thoughts that make the entrepreneurial journey very successful. What are the sources from where we find entrepreneurs in school? ऐसे कौन से sources हैं? Number 1 is ATL. 10,000 plus schools in India have tinkering labs. And they're teaching modules like design thinking, entrepreneurship, Internet of Things, ethical leadership in tinkering and innovation, Python, miniaturized electronics, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, drone technology, and all of this starts from 6th onwards. Now, this is the best source to find entrepreneurs, provided we try to find them seriously. Next part is, which is very, very interesting, is competitions. There are a lot of fantastic competitions that are there nationally and internationally, free of cost. IRIS is there, the Inspire CBSE is there, then Novate is there, Chitkara University, a lot of hackathons, a lot of toycathons, then also Google Science Fair. Then there's a competition called Diamond Challenge, where they fund your idea significantly. That's there. Apart from that, internal competitions like Chitkara, Buzzpreneur and all that. There's also another competition by Government of India, National Innovation Challenge. So these are all free of cost. You pitch in ideas and they support you. And apart from that, the third point is research, patents and fundings. So we'll be very happy to share that recently our students and teachers jointly have filed 18 plus patents. So that is something, as a joint teamwork with the school student and the teachers together. Apart from that, I'd like to ask a question, because there's all the school leaders sitting out here. Do we hire teachers with entrepreneurial mindset? Or are we getting teachers who enter the school space with entrepreneurial mindset? Another question is, do we do the staff competency matrix? Who knows out of the 100, 200 teachers that we have in our schools, there might be an entrepreneur ready to train another entrepreneur. So these are certain areas, you know, where I thought last but not the least, I'd like to talk about the career trajectory. 6th onward, we start putting the child into careers. And there is a lot of psychometric assessment these days happening. So let's say out of a class of 120 students, 20 of them are entrepreneurs. What do we do about them? So we can really work on those lines. Alumni, people who've already proven they are entrepreneurs, so we may use them as well. And also libraries. How much literature do we have in our libraries that supports entrepreneurship? There is a literature available for B schools, I understand, but there isn't any literature that is available for school students. So these are certain points that I have listed, you know, maybe.
It's interesting, Mr. Chatkara, because I was coming to it eventually, where I wanted to understand from the panel here that I think it's very clearly established that entrepreneurial education, especially at a school level, is very critical now. To that note, how important do you think, I mean, we're thinking of hiring teachers with entrepreneurial mindset here, right? How important, I mean, in what way do you feel entrepreneurial skills or honing an entrepreneurial mindset can actually contribute to bettering the existing education system? If yes, then how? Ma'am.
Definitely, I think I'll just take the question that you asked. The parents are changing now. The parents who are coming to school now, I think otherwise I'm loud enough if I just make an effort. Thank you. So parents are changing and now they are asking, ma'am, it's not the studies that we are worried about. We want our children to do something and be happy. So the point one of the speaker said last thing, it's the happiness that has to be created. And happiness is created only when we are productively engaging children, be it any level. And I strongly believe that the generation which is coming to us now is genetically evolved for all the reasons that we have cited in the previous meeting, in the previous session. They need all these things. For us, every child is a star, and what you're right there, that it's a kind of an edge that is given to a child. It's not a particular skill to start a business. It's a way of life, looking at the life itself, solving your problem, celebrating your failures, and coming out of it. So when we say these words, failures, when we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about the failures first before the success. So empower them types. But then I think it is equipping and empowering and enriching them is what is needed. The skills that she's talked about, we all have been talking about since last half an hour, is that edge that is being given to the child. Unless and until we prepare the child, and the sacred thing which is available to us is the classroom. So these learning experiences, where your NEP talks about this learning experiences of the child. We need to create those learning experiences. Whether as a teacher, we need to strategize our teaching and learning so that inquisitiveness we talk about, that fire in the belly that we talk about, it won't come in a day. It has to be nurtured right from the beginning, wherein you just facilitate the things and then leave something open for the child to learn. So that inquisitiveness will lead to finally that kind of curiosity and the ability to take that challenge. And definitely, all skills is not only about particular skills, it's a skill that has to be learned, but along with that skill, the emotional quotient has to be built up. So basically, children are ready when they are coming to us. It's only that creating that, just molding here and there. Maybe in further questions, then we'll be talking about how as schools we can make the difference. But I think the bed is ready for us. This 2021 to 2040 belongs to India, and this is the time our children will be coming out. I think we are ready for it.
Thank you, ma'am. It's interesting, ma'am spoke about the NEP. How critical do you think the scaling and the longevity aspect of entrepreneurial education depends upon curriculum integration, sir?
NEP.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, NEP has provided a very good platform, at least on paper. It is really a good platform because what happens is entrepreneurship grows out of individual skills. At the basic, मतलब for example, आदमी पकोड़े तलता है. So उसमें skill है which grows him as an entrepreneur. So the more you are allowed to like indulge in different activities, the more chances are there that you will find something that is your calling.
True.
Right? And frankly, if I go back, like I generally like to relate to certain stories. So in like, if I look at how I entered into entrepreneurship or how I first tried entrepreneurship, so then I see that sometimes maybe the school did something from which I gained. I'll just relate one or two stories maybe. See, I had, like in my school, there was a lot of passion about reading storybooks. Okay, so, and I was a very introvert child. I would not even speak most of the times. So, one day I thought that I have got so many books because I used to buy a lot of books and read a lot of books. So let me set up a library. So in a trunk, I put all the books, I arranged them in some manner, and I told my entire neighborhood that I have got opened a library. So for 25 paise, you can borrow a book. Of course, that I ended up making a total profit of 25 paise. One boy finally got convinced and took one book from me. Wow. Anyway, the venture was net profit, but venture was a failure. So net profit, failure. So these are also things that happen.
Yeah, profit in different ways, right? Someone sees profit as cash profit, and
Right.
the other one sees it as learning. And I
Right.
think that's what we need to get across to our children. Sir, how, Mr. Agarwal, how well or how far do you think entrepreneurial education is effective in raising VUCA-ready children? You know, the volatile, uncertain, ambiguous, chaotic world that they're going to enter into with cluttered markets, cluttered industries, product lines. That breakthrough innovation, do you think entrepreneurship education is the answer to that?
Let's just start a little bit more basic. What is entrepreneur? What is a good entrepreneur? What makes a good entrepreneur? Let's understand that first. There's a couple of things. First is deep subject knowledge. You can't be an entrepreneur without a deep subject knowledge. That is a key skill. For a school student, it would mean deep academic knowledge. Not only theoretical, but practical aspects of that subject. That is one. Second is, what is a good entrepreneur? Is a risk taker? Is a good communicator? Is a team leader? These are all life skills. Entrepreneurial education is just a combination of various skills put together. These are life skills. As everybody said, for us, what we need to do is we need to incorporate life skills into our curriculum, right? Give more opportunities to kids. Right? Those are practical things one can do. And third, at some level, it's emotional quotient also. That also has to be part of the curriculum, and that will essentially come through two things. Your educators. You can have the fanciest curriculum, but if your educators are not adept at rolling it out in a curriculum, in an actual classroom, and which is tough. See, our educators are not entrepreneurs. We, in most of the colleges in entrepreneurship education, we do not talk about life skills, right? The kind of pedagogies that our teacher education institutes are talking about, we tell teachers that please forget your B.Ed curriculum. That's a real life problem that we face, right? So it's a combination of two or three things. One is deep subject knowledge, one is basic life skills, right? And third is giving them opportunities, which, as Neeti had spoken, right, through various platforms, through what Mr. Mukesh said, giving in-house opportunities. If you just do two or three things right, I think that's it for a school. We are not our end product is not going to create a company, right? That also would be a false thing to say.
Yes,
Right? We need to give our children basic skills, basic life skills, good academics, good exposure, and entrepreneurship will happen. It is a basic, it's not a separate subject. Most of the good engineers, like, take Mark Zuckerberg, he had no idea about the business. He knew good product. He knew, he made a good product. And that comes through deep subject knowledge. So we need to teach well. These are some of the basic things. Rest, all the change that's going to happen in our society, if we get the basics right, these things will happen.
So you're a firm believer it's going to be organic growth.
It is, I just gave the example, the biggest thing to promote entrepreneurial education in our country is Shark Tank. You put 500 MBA colleges put together, and what Shark Tank has done, it's brought entrepreneurship to a everyday audience. It's drama, it's everything. But the kind of awareness it's raised about entrepreneurship at a very basic level, I think that's a very good example. That's real life.
Absolutely.
See,
yes, please.
It is basically a classroom. Shark Tank is a classroom for entrepreneurs.
True.
So my kid also sits there and watches it and he's learned
Immensely
through that
from,
classroom.
yes.
that's education happening right away.
He understands the financial
Classroom,
aspects.
lot of drama and melodrama. Absolutely.
Well, that's where the TRPs come from, right?
Narrative is also there.
Absolutely.
So you can relate much better.
Absolutely.
See, we've come from a society in which we paid 90% income tax to a society which now, the Prime Minister has said that we celebrate entrepreneurship. Right? That's a mindset change that has happened over the last 40 years. Right? Because everybody understands that going forward, we need to be problem solvers. And if you're able to solve problems, entrepreneurship is a function of that.
Absolutely. So very interestingly, Mr. Agarwal spoke about getting just a few things right, or about the teacher's mindset, how inclined it is towards entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, she is the foot soldier. She's the one who is transferring that knowledge to students. Schools, as I can see, are doing a lot already in this space. You've made inroads, you've started. Like, for example, ma'am, you were talking about the mini Shark Tank series you had in your school. Now, having executed these events or these programs in your school, what has been your observation? Any gaps in the current education system that are sort of coming in the way of, taking entrepreneurship education forward?
See, just a quick thing. We did just 3 days back. We had that Spark, the entrepreneurial conclave. So it was 2 days program. First day was we had all the high-end people there talking about things. We had participation. It was inter-school, and we had children from Delhi NCR also. The next day was then again the Shark Tank, what Robin was just talking about, and the next was the mystery box. They had to create something and make a product and sell it. So. The kind of experience we had this was our second edition, first was the online thing. It was entirely different feeling at the end of the day, with children bubbling up with energy. I think with our Indian students, Indian children are born entrepreneurs. The kind of jugaad that we have, the kind of thing that we are born with, any problem which comes to us, we have the solution to it. Definitely something like courses like what you were talking about is going to give us some insight into how exactly progressively we can start things and put things in order. Now, because this is the buzzword, so everybody's headlong into it. Let's do it and create it and then learn. So one thing is definitely each one of us is ready for it. How much readiness is there, that we have to see. That's what Sir was saying, that we have to identify. So some would be really, really born leaders. They take lead and they learn, they take those skills. Curriculum, the changes, the gaps that you were talking about, I think the basic gap, and NAP has already suggested, it is from the content heavy thing that we still have. We are still living in that denial that no, we are very much into skill oriented things. Definitely not, we are not there. It is still so much content oriented. The evaluation is content oriented. How much are we doing about skill? Life skills that we talk about is one session in a week on life skills and talks on life skills going to change things? No. Let the children feel those changes, the skills. We need to give them opportunity to experience those skills. When we talk about simple prioritization, where do we teach the children? Where are we giving them choices? Where are we telling them this is important, this has... All these things, the very basic 21st century learning skills that we talk about. Unless and until we give them that kind of experience in their schools, through their daily activities, whatever they do. We have ours is a no homework school. I'll quickly take a minute. And it's a no homework. It doesn't mean that home tasks are not important. Home tasks are very important. But we have that 50-minute slot, and last 10-15 minutes are there in the class, are given to class task. The child is given that task on Monday. The child is supposed to submit that task on Wednesday, Thursday. Within that time, we call it academic workshop, which can be at any point of the day. Maybe we begin with an academic workshop slot. It's not at the end of the day that we do it. So that the child, when he on Thursday or Friday, he goes through those academic workshop slots, he has to prioritize. Something that has to be submitted on Wednesday needs to be done today. Something which is submitted on Friday can take a day longer. When are we talking about choices? These are the skills that has to come, like the nursery rhymes that we talk to children, we teach children. Phonics, we begin this year with phonics. These are the choices. Are we giving them choices at home in food? We have our own cafeteria. It's a complete system that we have. So the child has the choice. This I want, this I don't want. We don't let the child discover his own innate potential. We talk about putting things into him. Again, it will be another curriculum. Just like, again, life skill has also in many schools has become another period, the way moral science had started. We don't teach morals through moral science. We don't teach life skills through life skills sessions. We do it by giving that opportunity to experience that kind of thing, wherein they make that decision. My school, the tagline of Manav Rachna is a playground of education. And that playground of education means where happiness is created. And a happy child is a learner. Kuch bhi sikhao. Kuch bhi sikhao. It's a day boarding. My little ones come from 7:45 to 2. And after that, nobody sleeps. After that, they play in the playground. So it is productively engaging them. It is high time that we start thinking. NEP has given us a document. How do we do with it? And catching them young is the solution to anything and everything that we talk about. ISB has done a lot of work now. They're coming up with a big plan, metamorphosis that you're talking. I think that would be a really brilliant. Now that we want it, we need somebody who knows things to help us to navigate it. That is very, very important.
So one of the things that we've tried recently at our school is internship. NEP talks about internship. But it is challenging. Nobody talks about that.
And those
but
are the
it is
gaps we're trying to
challenging
understand, yeah.
for an 11th standard student to go for internship, the absolutely non-serious lot, totally pampered parenting, Indian parenting product. So what happens is that, we have these 200 startups under Chitkara umbrella and then 1,000+ patents. So earlier we thought of sending them away from Chitkara umbrella so that they see the real world. But then realized the pampered generation has problems. Arey, wahan toilet nahi hai, wahan ye nahi hai, wahan khane ko nahi milta, all that. So what we did was we started putting them under one incubator or one startup. And that's again a fantastic way to train students for entrepreneurship. That turned out to be a good exercise, though it was very challenging. It was the first year that we tried. This year is going to be the second year. Next thing that, what I recommend is, and what we are doing at our school is, we've changed report cards. So there are 3 ways to assess any kind of learner, not just an entrepreneurial learner. First of all, it is called, so our report card has different meters. So first one is employment readiness meter, how employment ready you are. Secondly is higher education readiness meter, how higher education ready you are. And then third is the international education readiness meter, because our objective is going beyond the board exams. It's purely employability. It's measurable. So now my question to all the B schools since we are sitting inside ISB. So my question is, and or it could be a feedback, you know, we get MBAs, we get MBA in HR, we get MBA in finance and all. Why don't we get MBA HR specializing in education? Because unless the HR himself understands education, only then they can actually identify the entrepreneurial talent in the teachers, which will further on pass on to the students. Now, the difference is, we do get MBAs, but they deal with industry and products. Education is based on human beings, on emotions, and no software can run properly if you do not have emotions embedded. So why is it that, you know, the B school products, all in the entire world, they purely, the curriculum is driven towards industry. Academia is missing. So to change our human resource person to become an academic human resource person is again a big journey. So this is something, you know, where we all can work together, ISB, academic leaders all sitting here together. So is the case with finance. The big thing that is missing in our school is we don't teach finance till 10th standard. 10th we tell them to join commerce. Now they have no idea about commerce. This is like a biggest lacuna, and be it any startup person, be it any edtech, medtech or fintech companies, they are really bad with their numbers and finances. They come up with very strange models which are not school education friendly. So at times they come up with price ranges which we can't afford. I'm sure a lot of school people will agree. At times they come up with integration models where we don't have hours for them. See, they have to understand us first to create products for us. So this is where my suggestion, again to the academia, specialized higher education academia, all higher education providers, is we need specialized manpower for education. That will solve a lot of problems. Thank you.
Ms. Praneeth.
Here, I'd just like to add on, you know, when we went digital, we had to bring in people to train the entire system. Similarly, if we are looking at entrepreneurship, I agree with Mr. Robin that it has to be life skills firstly, and it is a byproduct of education. But a lot of ideas fritter away. They don't see the day of the sunlight. So to actually put them into a formation, you do need people to move into the school system as professionals, as Naiti brought out. And these professionals are the ones who will actually give the know-how to the teachers and the children. Because a lot of ideas fizzle out just for want of a method, a design as we talk of, you know. And now with so many things happening, you know, you've got Innovation Cell, you've got people training on them, you've got the Inspire Awards, and actually they're working out. You know, initially when we started with the Inspire Awards, I was wondering whether these ideas will actually reach that level. And I was so pleasantly surprised when ideas flew in and they reached the zenith, you know, with children getting awards. So when you see this kind of a success, your faith develops. And then you want to bring in people to channelize. Here I'd also like to say that, you know, the education system doesn't have too many flaws. It's pretty good. It's how we turn it around to, you know, to look for the right things. The best thing about entrepreneurship is the child who is the unconventional learner. The one with the talents which are not really academic talents, but he comes up with the most wondrous of ideas. And this is their time. So if we have this eye for looking for spotting talent and then developing talent, which is all again in the hub of the school area, because that's where a 2-year-old child comes and leaves at 18. So you've got a long period of grooming and watching the child grow. So a lot can be done, but yes, I think we do need people moving in and supporting a system, the educational system, and that's where you brought it out so well. Thank you.
I think one very crucial thing that is coming out of this, and which Robin had also pointed, and I think Niyati had also pointed out, that how to get an entrepreneur in the classroom. The teacher, not teacher with an entrepreneur mindset, Because if the teacher has entrepreneurship mindset, they will not be a teacher. So it's a very crucial thing that is coming out in the discussion, and I'll also again through a narrative explain this, that I went into an education system as an entrepreneur. An experiment which Niyati is aware of. And I was given that same, of course I was initially offered a job system. I said, no, that somehow that mindset is an issue with me. I want you to make profits and only then I make profit. And that's the only way I can think. There is no other way I have learned to think. So I said, fine, if there are losses, I also take them. If there are profits, I also take them. So let us work out a model. So models are possible, but you have to work out a model with an entrepreneur. Otherwise, that mindset will not come in. If you create an employee out of an entrepreneur, they already lost the model. So I thought that it is important to speak of that thing. Like getting entrepreneurs into the system requires different kind of model. It is not loss making, or it is not it is not tough in that sense. Like you said, it is difficult to do financial modeling, but with discussions, models emerge. We had very great discussions, and we are still looking at other models. Today I had a meeting, but tomorrow I postponed it. I have a meeting with Mohit again to work out another model. We have to keep on working on models till we find the right one. And that's the only way. Like, okay, as a teacher, entrepreneur teacher, what I have done to promote entrepreneurship is protect that child from the system. Like, for example, if one of my students takes up entrepreneurship as a course, and in my courses, it is not about learning and answering questions. He has to go and become an entrepreneur. So in midterm, if he comes back, sir, hamari ladai ho gayi, it has failed now. What do I do? So I create the necessary papers to pass him. उसे parents के सामने उसको बुरा नहीं करना. मैं कहता हूँ और काम कर तू, tension मत ले. So that is how the protection has to be given by the teacher, because the system may not support entrepreneurship. So ये काम बड़ा important है और ये ignored होता है, because you cannot draft a system to protect him. The individual teacher has to take initiatives and take the blame if found out. Accountability होती है टीचर की, लेकिन वो blame लेने को तैयार होना चाहिए. वो कम मिलेंगे, because वो entrepreneurial mindset से होंगे सिर्फ तभी मिलेंगे. So it is a catch-22, but solve कर लेंगे, I think. Solve कर लेंगे. There are
the academic bank of credit. So higher education space already has integrated academic bank of credit. It's coming to school education now. So maybe because it offers the credit system for schools, you know, to go beyond academics or go beyond the structured format. So maybe a credit program on entrepreneurship once gets rolled out and students get marks for that, eventually the society will change towards entrepreneurship. So that is again a great move, maybe positive towards entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Thank you.
Open things in that fashion that, okay, right now in colleges we have, okay, we have got 5 electives, 10 electives, go, do one of them and come. But it should change to, तू किधर भी कोई कोर्स कर गया, इतने आवर्स का होना चाहिए, we'll give you the credit. इतना होना चाहिए, इतना open. जैसे ही होगा, it will turn out, because what happens in entrepreneurship, see, you learn skills as you face problems. So which means if you're trying to develop a microscope, now you need to learn optics. Not after learning optics you develop microscopes. ऐसा नहीं होता है. So whenever you need to learn, you should be given credit somewhere in the system.
In this, I'd just like to add, you know, this interdisciplinary approach that has come into schools, this is a great way to bring in entrepreneurship, because ultimately the child has to apply all the aspects to this. Recently we held the business cohort for our class 11, 12, 9th to 12th rather. And we could see this combination where children were applying all the, you know, different subjects to create their models. It was extremely exciting, And we saw such innovation coming up from children, which left us all pretty astounded. So the capability is there. We just need to have a broader base so that reaches out to more children while they may be few as yet. So if it goes to the grassroots level, there's a possibility that many who still lack initiative will come up. And that's again when we come back to life skills, which again talks about the same things. But I think ultimately we do have a lot of scope for allowing entrepreneurship in schools with the changed mindset of teachers as well as children.
Yeah, I think as educators, I think we're all on the same page that the get set stage is over. We're at go, you know, the bullet's been fired. And to that, I'd like to sum up this panel discussion tonight by asking the one last question. I'll start with you, Mr. Agarwal, is that having established the need for entrepreneurial education very well today evening, 3 habits that you think as parents or as educators are going to be very critical in this mindset remodeling journey that we are on towards the entrepreneurship goal that we're looking at?
Just again, I would start that practical academic knowledge, right? That if you're doing science, do more projects. That is a basic skill, right? Unless you have that inter-subject knowledge and so basic skills. Again, that's what I mean by good academics. Secondly, exposure, right? Through competitions, conferences, give them exposure. Third is, I would say, work more on teachers. Work, see, our teachers come from a very narrow mindset in our country, right? So the more your students' achievements are directly proportional to the exposure of teachers in your school. So there are broadly 2 or 3 things.
You're actually saying just prescribing or putting that NEP structure is just not enough. Enable the teachers as well.
See, NEP is old wine in new bottle. We've had education policy for last 1966. It's got few more things. You will have NEP from 20 years from now. Getting into action is always harder, right? The practical challenges which Neeti spoke about, when she tried to give internships to her students, those are practical challenges, and that will always exist. And how you manage, how you execute those, will define, the success of your children.
This works. Yeah. I think the topmost thing, like I've often discussed, like last time I visited Malaysia, so रात को I think medicine की ज़रूरत पड़ी. So I went down from my hotel. I was wandering around because nothing was open, Kuala Lumpur में. And then there was this like pillar के पास 4 आदमी इकट्ठे थे. And they were playing chess. I have interest in chess, deep interest in chess. Chandigarh Chess Association may be involved and all. So they were playing chess. So they said, come. So now I knew, ये India नहीं है. You always play on bet. That is something missing in India. Bet लगा के खेलो. Then you are invested in the game.
Yeah.
I am just recollecting that event because somewhere it may be taken as a negative thing. यार पैसे लगा के खेल रहा है. But mindset वहीं से आएगा. So courage is the most important mindset approach. Courage is not the same as extroversion. Introverts में ज़्यादा courage हो सकता है. So courage is the biggest thing जो बच्चे के अंदर spot करके कुछ नहीं कर सकते. होना चाहिए. बस ये कोशिश कर सकते हो कि create an environment where courage doesn't get discouraged.
Correct.
क्योंकि courage discourage करना बड़ा आसान है. मैं एक और इंसिडेंट से बहुत ज़्यादा बच्चों को relate भी करा पाता हूँ.
We're loving your anecdotal references, totally.
मैं स्कूल में था, my English teacher टॉमी चंद मैथ्यू, beautiful English उनकी. मतलब मैं बता रहा हूँ, I topped in English in MP. So उनकी इतनी अच्छी इंग्लिश थी and I was a very good student, बहुत मेहनत करता था. So anyway, so टॉमी चंद मैथ्यू सर की एक क्लास थी and हमारे स्कूल में एक सिस्टम उन्होंने एक लगाया था, like if Tuesday is a holiday, so Tuesday's timetable will be followed on Wednesday. और ऐसे करके timetable, so they stuck to the timetable, not to the days. Fine. So it gets confusing sometimes because बीच में एक दिन हुआ कि full day PT rehearsal. सो अब वेडनेसडे को अगर पीटी रिहर्सल हो गई तो क्या ट्यूसडे का टाइम टेबल है कि वेडनेसडे का? इट इज कंफ्यूजिंग फॉर द किड्स समटाइम्स, बाहर से नहीं दिखता है. सो एनीवे, मैं एक पर्टिकुलर डे का टाइम टेबल ले गया एंड टॉमीचंद मैथ्यू सर की क्लास है. उन्होंने कहा कि नोटबुक निकालो. आई सेड आई डोंट हैव द नोटबुक. आई वाज अ वेरी इंट्रोवर्ट चाइल्ड. आई विल नेवर स्पीक बैक अनलेस आई एम स्टक, एंड व्हेन आई एम स्टक देन आई एम स्टक. मैं कहा नोटबुक तो नहीं लाया. तो कोई बात नहीं, डायरी निकालो. आई सेड नो, आई विल नॉट राइट नोट्स ऑन डायरी. आई टुक ए स्टैंड एंड ही वाज ए वेरी हार्श टीचर. मेरे को पता था झापड़ आएगा सीधा. उस जमाने में तो और कुछ नहीं आता था. नहीं तो उसके ऊपर एक ओझा सर थे, वो तो फिर जैसे पुराने अंग्रेजी स्कूल में होता है कि बेंड ओवर एंड संटियां लगती थी जोर जोर से. सो एनीवे, टॉमीचंद मैथ्यू सर ने अपनी किताब फोल्ड की, क्लास से चले गए. अब सारे सर, ये क्या है, किस लिए कर रहे हो ये सब? एनीवे, आई वाज स्टैंडिंग देयर. मेरे को क्यों बैठने को तो बोला नहीं उन्होंने. मैं खड़ा हुआ. थोड़ी देर बाद ओझा सर आए. उस समय फिर सारी क्लास पिटती थी. ओझा सर का क्लास में आते थे या नील डाउन होते थे हम चौक पे, जो स्कूल के अंदर का चौक है. ऑफकोर्स बेइज्जती किसी को नहीं लगती थी, ऐसे प्राइड फील होती थी कि हमारी क्लास नील डाउन हुई. सो ओझा सर आए. अब लगा पिटे, बहुत पिटेंगे. बट ही वॉज क्राइंग एंड ही सेड, Vineet, go to the staff room. टॉमीचंद सर इज क्राइंग. उस दिन मेरे को समझ आया कि सीरियस स्टूडेंट को नहीं पीटते. मैं किसी मुद्दे पे रुका हूं एंड उनको समझ आ रहा मुद्दा, तभी उन्होंने नहीं पीटा. There are so many learnings in one single class. So mindset, ये करेज का माइंडसेट से मैं जस्ट रिलेट कर रहा हूं कि कई बार करेज कहां से आता है पता नहीं, लेकिन अगर करेज दिखा उन्होंने दबाया नहीं. ये उनकी खासियत थी. वो आसानी से दबा सकते थे. और मैं पिटने को तैयार था, पूरी क्लास पिटने को अब तैयार थी अब तो. बिकॉज पीछे बात हो गई थी कि यार हाथ निकालेंगे और वो रूलर पीछे आगे कहीं पड़ेंगे, जो आजकल नहीं पड़ते अनफॉर्चुनेटली. तो बड़े अच्छे थे. लेकिन एनीवे, दिस नैरेटिव वाज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज आई थिंक सिंगल मोस्ट जो अप्रोच है, करेज अगर एनकरेज कर सके किसी तरह, या एनकरेज ना भी करो, डिस्करेज करने से अगर रोक दो. मैं एक और एग्जांपल छोटा सा है, आपको लगे बड़ी लंबी कहानी होती है. सो माय सन स्टडीड इन ए सर्टेन प्रेस्टिजियस स्कूल ऑफ चंडीगढ़. तो मैंने भी स्कूल में जैसे कुछ पंगे लिए थे, तो कहता है पापा मैं कोई बिजनेस शुरू करना चाहता हूँ. मैंने कहा एक काम करते हैं. उस समय बड़ा नया नया था प्रिंटिंग वगैरह ना, कलर्ड प्रिंटिंग. मैंने कहा स्टिकर शीट लेते हैं, उसके ऊपर पोकेमॉन प्रिंट करते हैं, तो वो बेचते हैं. तो उसने एक बेच भी लिया, लेकिन कहता है टीचर ने कहा कि ये सब क्या कर रहे हो. तो करेज डिस्करेज हो गया उस दिन. उसके बाद उसने नहीं किया. सो ये चीजें होती हैं, बहुत छोटी होती हैं, जो आप कह रहे हो कि एंटरप्रेन्योर माइंडसेट वाली टीचर चाहिए थी.
Yeah, which is the point he made, that the teacher's mindset.
So the system has to somehow protect those kids because उस समय बहुत delicate mindset होता है. बड़े होके शायद थोड़ा स्ट्रॉन्ग हो जाता है और लड़ने को तैयार होता है, लेकिन स्कूल में नहीं होता. स्कूल में वो प्रोटेक्शन, वो जगह बनाना, स्पेस बनाना कि एंटरप्रेन्योर सर्वाइव कर जाए. आई समहाउ सर्वाइव द स्कूल सिस्टम. मोस्ट स्टूडेंट्स डिड. That was
I think three things you said, sorry. I think we need to teach children to adopt, adapt, and innovate. So I think the basic thing that he talked about and Sir talked about, if we teach them this, we are able to inculcate, not teach them again, that's a wrong word, because teaching is not equal to learning, no? So when I think as that I've taught, it's not whether the children have learned it or not. So somewhere this adopt, accept it, and then adapt accordingly, and then innovate. This concept, if it is there in anything and everything that we do with our children, they get this comes in and then their growth mindset. That this is how we need to handle everything, and this is how वो एक अलग चैलेंज है जो सर बोल रहे हैं, करेज को डिस्करेज नहीं करने देना है, एंड एवरी अपॉर्चुनिटी which comes should be there, but I think we are all these things taken together, I think we are on the right track.
I think according to me, first of all, the biggest trait that entrepreneur must have is risk-taking ability. वो गब्बर सिंह का डायलॉग है, जो डर गया वो मर गया. So this act totally applies to entrepreneurs. But 3 traits that I feel are very, very important. First of all, the reading ability, the literature, the content has to be strong. Secondly, observation. अगर आप पढ़े लिखे नहीं हैं तो फिर observe कीजिए. You know, the observation has to be very, very strong. And thirdly, I think the most important is regarding the art of storytelling. Because अगर आप कहानी अच्छी बोलते हैं तो लोगों को आप में faith हो जाएगा and they'll start believing in you and your beliefs and your products. So I think these 3 abilities are really important.
Well, coming to what is really required, one is that the school has to give children a democratic setup, where I agree there are not too many choices, but they're enough. They're enough for children to start thinking and develop their thinking ability, rationalizing, analyzing, if we can develop these. Secondly, the ability also to take a risk as brought out, and along with that risk taking, it has to have a base of knowledge. Without knowledge, it's a half-baked idea. It will not go far. So that knowledge, expertise is required, so we can never ever do away with the conventional education. That is required, that is the foothold. And we build that into an action module. So children experience the education and therefore they are better armed to take risks. Because as said, courage can become discouraged if it's too early. So they need to take the step at the right time when they are fully armed with knowledge, the right kind of education, and then move on with a conviction and innovation. Ultimately, wherever they go, even if they're not business people, they are in their professions. The person who goes to the highest rung of his profession will be the one who has some kind of entrepreneurial skills. Wherever he is, he brings that system up. Whether it's a school, it's an office, it's a hospital. If he can raise the entire institution, he's already, he's gone into entrepreneurship already. So if we can give these children these 3 things, which are very much possible in a school system, but we have to look at children as individuals, not as a whole lot together. We start doing that with the adept teacher. We'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's been the amount we have learned from your perspective today has been phenomenal. And I think the one thing that the house is united on is that the gift of entrepreneurial mindset and skill set is one that is not only going to help our children excel just in school, but even in life beyond. The gift of self-directed and lifelong learners that we're giving them. Like Sir said, hoega, hoega. And on that note, thank you so much. It's been an absolutely fantastic evening. Learned so much. Distinguished panelists, and I think the Metamorphosis team here will collectively believe that this Schoolpreneur Summit could not have had a better start. Mohali has been very kind to us. Thank you very much. The schools, the principals, ISB. It's been great. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming over.
to hear a new thing happening all the time.